Hi, this is David Roberts with Roberts Business Services. Welcome to QuickBooks for people who refuse to be called dumb. We're going to talk about how to start things in QuickBooks, how to create your company file, because there are a lot of errors that are created as soon as somebody begins to put in their company file. And we are going to talk about that. This video is free. And it's also a little bit longer than the videos in the rest of the course because there are a lot of issues that people just don't do right. And we're going to try and expose those and make sure you get a good start. Okay, this is the screen that you're going to see when you open up QuickBooks for the first time and you don't have a company file on your computer. There are a couple options that you have here in starting a new company file, and we're going to go through a couple of them. The Express Start, which is the one that most people choose, it's the easiest. I'm going to show you how to do that, but there's also the Detailed Start, which helps you put a little bit more detail into your company file and do some things that the Express Start won't be able to do. If you have a company file that's on your computer, but you don't want to transfer over the transactions and things of that nature, but maybe just want a similar company file on your computer, you can use this one, and then it will ask you to choose which company file, if you've got more than one on your computer, which one you want to create based on the existing one, or which existing one you want to use as a template. Here is one thing that I recommend against. Converting data from Quicken or other accounting software. Now, there are a couple of options under here, but the main reason I recommend against doing this is not because it's not able to do so, it's just because data from other accounting software, from Quicken even, if it's not entered in there correctly, you could end up creating a company file that is a jumble of a mess in doing so. What you want to do is you want to make 100% sure that the data in your other accounting software is accurate. If it's not, it's going to transfer over, and you may not even see the mistakes until it's too late. So let's go through an Express Start first of all, and we're going to enter in the company name, and we're going to call it ABC Inc. Now, in this right here, the reason they have these two help me choose helps there is to show you which industry you're in. Why does this matter? It matters because your chart of accounts is going to be built upon whichever one of the industries that you choose. Now, if you don't know or you can't find your industry here, you can come down to the bottom and create a general product-based business. In other words, you have a storefront and you're selling items. Excuse me. Or you can choose a general service-based business, which is your lawn maintenance company, a daycare center, or something of that nature. Excuse me. So, whether you choose product or service, it doesn't really matter, because you can add the option of having a service within your company if you're a product-based, or a product if you're a service-based. For example, a hair salon is technically a service-based business, but some hair salons do have products that they sell, the shampoos and the conditioners and all the other stuff that guys don't understand about hair is going to be there in a store. So we're going to create a general product-based business, and this is going to be what the chart of accounts looks like. Business type. The reason they have the help me choose here is because of this. When you create a company file in QuickBooks, it uses the type of company that you have to create the equity accounts in there. So we're going to talk a little bit about it. A sole proprietorship. A sole proprietorship is one that is very easy to do. It doesn't require any legal ramifications as far as getting a lawyer to draw up paperwork or anything. And all of the income and losses or revenues, expenses, whatever, transfer over to your 1040 form. This is important because when you get into tax line mapping, which is in the course later down the road, the tax line mapping is based on the chart of accounts that you create. And let's say, for example, you have an S Corp, but you classify it as a sole proprietorship. That chart of accounts is not going to be right. The tax line mapping is not going to be right. And this is something that can be difficult to change later on. So you want to make sure that if you have incorporated yourself, that you put in the right company type, because that's going to matter. Sole proprietorship, very easy. Partnership or LLP, also very easy, but you have to do a different form when you do your taxes, and that's a form 1065. Now, partnerships, I generally recommend against partnerships, even if it's like a married couple. I would say incorporate and have each partner have half of the shares in that company. Partnerships tend to be very messy, so if there is a partner who wants to back out of the partnership, you have to literally restructure the entire company and create another company. That's the way partnerships work. So if the partner dies, decides that he wants to get out of it, anything like that, or if the partner gets divorced and the wife wants his share or the husband wants her share of the company, it can be difficult. So I recommend against partnership, but that's still an option here. Limited liability company, what that is a way to limit the liability to the owners based on how much money they put in. And this is kind of like a sole proprietorship if you do a single member LLC. So let's say you've invested $100,000 into your business. Your liability is limited to the investment of $100,000. Does this mean that people can't sue you for your house? No, it doesn't. I mean, they can still do that if there's been gross negligence. But it limits your liability in general things to your investment. So it's helpful to have an LLC, but this is not technically a real form of business that offers you the protection that an incorporation does. Now, if you are in a business like lawn care or hair salon, the chances of you getting sued are low, but it can happen. So if you're in construction, however, or you're doing work in somebody's house, you want to definitely have some kind of protection for you. If you have employees, you want to have some kind of protection for them against them suing you. So I highly recommend either a C Corp or an S Corp for that. But again, like partnership, LLC is also an option. A C Corp is good. Here is the drawback of the C Corp. If you have a loss during the year, which during the first couple of years of your company, you're almost guaranteed to have a loss. You have to be prepared for that. So the loss goes onto the form 1120C and does not transfer over to your 1040. So it's not going to be a benefit to you to have a loss in terms of getting any kind of tax refund back. I know you may be fully prepared for that because you're a business owner. You're going to be a business owner. But that's something that you need to keep in mind. You also need to go through a series of legal things. I suggest LegalZoom.com to help you make sure that your C Corp is registered in your state. legal, and ready to do business. If you're going to incorporate, I always recommend an S corporation because the tax liability passes on to its shareholders. So, for example, you've invested $100,000 into your business. Maybe there's two shareholders here. That would be you and a partner, or you and your wife or husband. If the company has a loss, then that loss flows through to your personal return. So if either one of you is contributing to your Social Security and your FICA and things of that nature, this loss may reduce your tax liability so that you get a refund. You want to make sure that you get this done March 15th, not April 15th, because that's the time period you have. S corporation with the chart of accounts is going to give you equity like shareholder distribution, shareholder contribution, and things of that nature. So there are legal things that you have to do to create an S corporation. You have to create it as a C first, and then fill out a separate form to get it converted to an S corp. Once you get that done, you're ready to go. So the next type of company here is a nonprofit. And yes, a nonprofit does not pay taxes, but there are other issues with a nonprofit. I had one client one time tell me, can I convert my business into a nonprofit? It was a gym of some sort. And I said, why do you want to be a nonprofit gym? And he said, well, we're not making a profit anyway. So, yeah, that's an excuse. But no, the nonprofit has to have specific purpose, and just because it's not making a profit doesn't mean you turn it into a nonprofit. And then there's other or none, and I can't really even think of other or none what type of business would fit into here. I would not choose this because when you file your tax return and you haven't chosen to be any of these, the IRS will choose for you. So don't let that happen. Right now we're going to make this new business an S corporation. And of course, you need an employer identification number, which you can get for free from the IRS, and you can get it within maybe 5 minutes. But the EIN number is going to be tied to all of the other paperwork in order to become a corporation. Now, if this was a sole proprietorship, you would put your Social Security number right here, because you don't need to have an EIN as a sole proprietorship. Can you? Absolutely, you can. So we're just going to put a number right here and move on to the address, which is easy to figure out. Now, you want to have the phone number in here because this is going to become part of your business information. We're going to click Create the Company, and it is going to go through the process of creating the company file. Now, remember, this is the express setup, so there's a lot of things that will not be done that need to be done. And yes, sometimes it does take a little bit of time. Okay, now we've created the company file, and we've got 3 options here. Well, 4 options really. We can start working. Don't do that. It's an option because if you're just starting into business and you don't have any customers that you already do business with, you don't have any products or services that you sell, and you don't have a bank account for your business, you're really not ready to go into business. So you could click on Start Working, but you don't have any customers, items to sell, and you don't have any bank accounts. All right, so you need to have those before you begin. Now, the reason that they have this option here is to be able to import any of your customers from your Outlook, from Gmail, Yahoo, all of that, or you can paste it from Excel. Now, a lot of people start their business with an Excel spreadsheet. So I'm going to show you what the Excel spreadsheet should have in it. And this is the form that you're going to see. Now, in your Excel spreadsheet, you need to have the name of your customer, the company name that they're with, then have a first and last name contact, email, their phone number, alternative phone, fax number, address, city, state, zip, contact name. Once you have that, you can actually cut and paste all of the customers on your Excel spreadsheet into QuickBooks. You can also do that with vendors and employees, but the information may be a little different. Okay, we're going to cancel out here. Now, the products and services you sell. If you're a service company, this would be what you would be adding here. If you have non-inventory parts you don't want to track, and we'll talk about that later in the course, but for purposes here, it's things like staples and pens, and you don't really want to track all of that. So we're going to show you what it looks like to add a service. Now, you can also cut and paste this from Excel. So you would add a name of whatever the product or service is that you sell, the description that you would want to go into the invoices for your customers, and the price that you charge for it. Unfortunately, it's not more detailed than this, but we can start editing things once you have a lot of the products and services in. And adding bank accounts. Yeah, you can have as many bank accounts as you like, as it says on the screen. But you want to make sure that you have a checking account for the daily expenses and revenues, something that you can put all the money into. But I also recommend to clients to have a separate bank account for payroll. And this is the reason for that. If you ever get an employee that gets angry at you for whatever reason, they can take their last paycheck. And this has been done and is done every day because people aren't aware that they will get caught very quickly. But there have been disgruntled employees that have taken the account numbers of their boss's checking account and created a book of checks at Staples or Office Max or whatever the case may be. And they go out and they write a lot of checks. And if this account number that you're paying out of is your general fund, you could end up with a bank account that's depleted rather quickly. So I would suggest having at least one main checking account and a payroll checking account. And for reasons that we'll discuss later in the course, create a petty cash account that's for other reasons. It's kind of complicated to get into right now. But have at least 3. And once we've done all that, it's going to ask if we want to start working. We start working, and here it is. Here is our file for ABC Incorporated. Okay, that was the express start. We're going to exit out of here, and I'll show you the detailed start. Okay, we're back at the beginning, and we're going to go through the detailed start. Alright, you're going to see a lot of the same stuff here. So we started ABC Company, so we're going to start DEF Company Incorporated. The tax ID number, this is, of course, is going to be your social security number if you're a sole proprietorship, or an EIN number, any other like incorporation or partnership or anything like that. Really specifically, if you're doing an incorporation or some other entity, you cannot use your social security number. So you want to make sure that you put the EIN number here. This one We're just entering in the information. Now, when you add your email address, what this does is this allows QuickBooks to be able to set you up to send invoices, receipts, and send bills via your email address. So you want to have that in there. Your website too. And we'll go to next. Alright, now here's where you select your industry. Again, if you don't know what industry you're in, you can come down to the bottom of the list. This time we'll go ahead and go with a service-based business. If you have any questions or anything, you can come up here, or you can see examples of industries by clicking on this blue word right here. Okay, I'm going to show you the chart of accounts this time, so I want you to make sure, I want to make sure myself that you choose the right one. So we'll make this one a sole proprietorship. Now, sometimes your fiscal year won't start on January 1st. Businesses that are heavily geared towards seasonal events may start their fiscal year in November or October for ski resorts, or May or June for hotels at the beach. If you're not sure, just pick January. Okay, it's the easiest one to deal with, and it'll save you a lot of headaches. Alright, now when you're setting up your administrator password, this means that you're basically going to have other people working in your QuickBooks. So you want to make sure that you have access to everything in QuickBooks and they have access to very little in QuickBooks. Your cashier doesn't need to have access to your reports or to the information about what's in your bank account. So this is important to keep it separate from other people who are going to be using your QuickBooks. So we're just going to set up a simple password. By the way, if you don't choose the right kind of password, Intuit is very picky about the passwords that you use. So pick one that you know you won't forget. Okay, now we've clicked on Create the Company File, so we're going to save it. When you save your company file somewhere, you want to make sure that you're saving it somewhere that's not on your computer. These, it really doesn't matter to me a whole lot because they're samples. So we are creating a company file onto my desktop. You want to have that separation of them so that you can, if something happens to your computer, you can always keep all the information that you've entered into it. I actually had a client one time whose building was struck by lightning, killed all of their computers. Fortunately, it was at a time that I had created a backup the week before, so nothing was lost, and I was able to install a new QuickBooks and their information, and we had everything. Alright, now we're customizing QuickBooks for our business. Here's where you can add services and products. If you're doing one, you can also add the other. DEF, I don't know what kind of company it's going to be, but we're just going to choose both services and products. Can you change this at any time? Yes, you can, but this allows you to specify right now what kind of services and products you do. Do you charge sales tax? Yes. Now, as we go through all of these options, understand that you have the option of changing it later on. So this isn't something that's going to stop you from doing something if somehow down the line you run a services business but you want to start selling products and you've already chosen no for sales tax. Also, check with your state because some states have differing sales taxes on services that you provide. So we're just going to choose yes. Do you want to create estimates in QuickBooks? Yes. Now, obviously if you're a store, that's selling items, nobody's going to ask you for an estimate of what a soda and a candy bar is going to cost. So you don't have to have this, but we are going to create the estimates. Tracking customer orders. Now, if you have a business that customer comes in and they want item X, and you don't have item X, but you can get it, you want to be able to track sales orders so that you can make the sales orders, convert it into a purchase order from a vendor, and be able to get that item for your customer. Statements are when you have customers that don't pay you right away, but they pay you on a monthly basis or something like that. You want to be able to use billing statements so that you can send them a statement of everything they've purchased for the month and everything that's included in that. Progress invoicing is mainly for construction or contractors. That's when a customer comes in and they want you to do the work for them. You want to be able to bill them for a third, a half, 10%, 20%, whatever the percentage is that you want right away. And then as you're doing the work, they continue to pay you. Progress invoicing allows you the option of being able to send them an invoice at particular times in the payment for the project being completed. So we're going to say yes. Managing bills. If all you're doing when you get your bank statement is entering in everything that you spent, which you can do, it's legitimate. The problem is you won't have an accounts payable, so you don't know how much you owe. You want to have an accounts payable, so when you receive the bill, you enter the bill, and then you pay it in the pay bill section of QuickBooks. So we're going to choose yes to keep track of our bills. Do we want to keep track of inventory? Well, we chose a services thing. So we're not technically equipped with inventory yet. But what we're going to do is we're going to choose yes to track inventory in QuickBooks. Now, I know that there are a lot of wonderful third-party applications out there that say that they work with QuickBooks in tracking inventory. But that's an additional cost to you that you don't need to pay. QuickBooks can handle barcoding, inventory tracking, inventory adjustments, inventory assemblies, all of the stuff that all of these third-party apps can do, QuickBooks can do for you. So there's no need to put out the money for all these additional things. But people still do it. Tracking time. Are we going to bill customers for time? Are we going to pay hourly employees and contractors? You want to be able to track time in a services industry if you are paid by the hour or you're billing people by the hour. So we're going to choose yes. Do we have employees? Now, you don't necessarily have employees when you first start out in a business, so you can choose no. You can later on add payroll to QuickBooks and create employees. Now, again, there are other companies that do payroll, and they may even charge less money for doing payroll than Intuit does. Here's the advantage to having the Intuit payroll. Everything is in the same company file. So instead of at the end of the year having to gather up information from your payroll company and from your QuickBooks and from your merchant services, which we're going to see in a little bit, and merge it all together to hand to the tax preparer, it can all be in there already. And it's not that much more than a lot of these local payroll companies. So we're going to choose yes. And if we choose yes, we obviously have W-2 employees. Now, even if you're the only employee of this corporation or of this sole proprietorship, and you want to pay your Social Security and all of that so that you do get a refund at the end of the tax year, remember that you're going to have to pay a little more to do that, but you'll ensure that at the end of the year you don't have a surprise waiting from the IRS that says, hey, you owe us $10,000. Okay. If you have people that you are paying that are contractors that you don't put them in your payroll, you issue them a 1099 at the end of the year. You want to have this option chosen. In the course videos, we go specifically into how to add 1099 contractors, because what's involved in that is choosing the right account to use to keep track of what you're paying them, assigning that to a tax line mapping that will put that into a 1099 on the right line in a 1099 form. And we also cover creating the 1099s either yourself and going to the store and buying the forms and bringing them and printing them on QuickBooks, or having QuickBooks do that all for you, which is so much easier, less time. You really just got to ask yourself, how much is your time worth, and figure out whether you want to be spending 10 hours printing W-2s and 1099s if Intuit can do it for you. So we're going to go next. All right, so we're going to use accounts in QuickBooks, and it's going to help us set up our chart of accounts. Now, if you have been in business and you just got QuickBooks, but you have some transactions, you can choose to use the beginning of the fiscal year, which if you have transactions dated before that, it's up to you whether you want to add them or not, because the taxes should have already been done for that year. You could choose to use today's date as the date of the beginning of your finances tracking. But for right now, we're just going to choose the beginning of the fiscal year and move forward. Now, this is going to be your chart of accounts. You can scroll through here and see which services are going to be in the chart of accounts. Now, can you add more later? Yes, you can. The ones with the check marks here are the ones that Intuit recommends that you have in the chart of accounts. So all the information that you entered before is going to be represented in this chart of accounts. And really, it's kind of detailed. I have a video in the course talking about the chart of accounts and what each of these means. So we're just going to assume, well, we definitely want to add business licenses and permits because you need those. And this is my favorite, ask my accountant. If you don't know where it goes, put it in there, and at the end of the year, ask your accountant. And hopefully remember what it was for. Okay, that was the Easy Step interview, a little more detailed than the Express, but we're going to go to Setup, and it's going to start doing all the things in the background and creating our company file. And, of course, this looks familiar because we covered that in the first one. So we're just going to skip to Start Working. And now we have DEF Incorporated. If you're wondering about this square right here, this is only available if you purchase the accountant version of QuickBooks. So you're not going to see that pop up at all. And that is starting with an Express start, or starting with a detailed start. Hope you enjoyed this video. Remember, if you have any questions, even if you haven't purchased the course, feel free to contact me, and I'll do what I can to help you. Thank you very much.